for something we hope you'll really like.
Good morning, class. Today we are going to start a lesson on poetry. Now, before we start reading and discussing poetry, we're going to go over some of the terms that will be helpful for discussing poetry. You'll need to get out your vocabulary notebooks and take notes on this. First, let's talk about form. The elements of form are number of lines, rhyme, rhythm, and number of stanzas. And stanzas are a group of lines of poetry, like a paragraph, set off usually by a blank space. Poets create stanzas for a reason. The lines belong together. Rhythm is the beat or pattern of stressed and unstressed lines. Most poems that we are familiar with use rhyme, which is the repetition of sound, almost always to achieve an effect or to create a rhythm. End rhyme is the repetition of the ends of sounds of the words at the ends of lines of poetry. Near rhyme, or off rhyme, or slant rhyme, is not quite true or pure. Tree rhymed with hurry. Internal rhyme rhymes a word in the middle of a line of poetry with a word elsewhere in the line. While rhyme is familiar, it does not have to be used, which brings us to free verse. Free verse is a poetry which does not have a regular rhythm, rhyme scheme, or form. Some free verse poems also do not use punctuation or capitalization, or they otherwise break the rules of grammar. Something else that we're all familiar with, though you might not know it, is alliteration, which is the repetition of sound within a line of poetry, or it can be used in prose. There are two types of alliteration: assonance, which is the repetition of vowel sounds. I wore a fleecy green jacket, easy and tall. Consonance is the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of words within a line of poetry. Slanting silver slits of rain slithered down my windowsill. And finally, let me tell you about the fulcrum of a poem. Poems, like stories, are built upon contrast and conflict. The fulcrum is that point in the poem in which the contrasting or conflicting ideas, images, or moods are resolved. One wins out. A fulcrum is often the most emotional line or lines and often carries the clue to meaning.